Today is Easter Sunday. Jesus was raised from the dead. You know, I was told by a Filipina friend of mine who said, and she was creative, said, "Father, if you give homily or read the gospel, you could not be seen from afar because I am a little bit smaller. I'm not blessed with the height as Monsignor Craig." So she was creative, and she said, there is a riser in the lectern or the ambo. And since it is the resurrection, Jesus was raised from the dead, I have to make myself also raised a little bit. So I have to put on the riser. So I'm taller now than Monsignor Craig. I find it difficult also. I'm most comfortable with my height, and it is difficult to be taller than I thought. Anyway, today is the day the Lord has made. As our responsorial psalm says, this is the day the Lord has made. Because today is the greatest of all days. You know, our celebration of the liturgy cannot happen without Easter Sunday. So all the other feasts and even Sundays that we are celebrating goes back from Easter Sunday. Even Christmas is nothing, or the birth of Jesus is nothing without Easter Sunday. The experience of the people, especially the apostles or the early Christian communities of Easter, brought them back to other celebrations of our liturgy. Because if it would have not happened that Jesus was raised from the dead, then there is no point of coming here. There is no point of celebrating Sundays. There is no point of celebrating the birth of Jesus, because those are useless without Easter, without Jesus having been raised from the dead. I said he was raised from the dead because Jesus never rises by himself. He was raised. Even in our profession of faith, it was said he was raised from the dead. It is not by his own power that Jesus rises. It is by the power of God, his Father, that he was raised from the dead. Of course, he can do that as the Son of God, as God himself. But this has to show again the power of God, that he is capable of doing something. And he has to raise Jesus from the dead. So it is a beautiful day. It is a beautiful Sunday. And for me, this is the most beautiful celebration that in fact all priests hopefully desire. You know what? When I was ordained as a priest in the monastery, I was a Benedictine for 14 years. Every priest desired to celebrate Easter. But as a simple monk, you cannot celebrate it yourself, because it is always the abbot, the superior of the monastery, who should be saying the Mass on big occasions. And it was only when I left the monastery that I had a chance to celebrate Easter Mass by myself. And I think this is the greatest of all celebrations I have after I left the monastery, because in the Philippines, where I said Masses for 10 years after I left the seminary or monastery, I have to do it in small chapels. And this is one of the biggest crowd or assembly that I celebrated Easter. So it is a wonderful moment in my life as a priest, to be with you and to be with a new group. And I have to make good of my English. You know, in the gospel we heard Mary Magdalene going to the tomb. Of course, she was excited to go to the tomb to find where Jesus' body was laid. But like any human being, Mary's mind was thinking of the dead body. Like ourselves, we think that when the person dies, he is simply dead. It never crossed probably in the mind of Mary and even his and the disciples of Jesus that Jesus would ever rise from the dead. And as you know, they were in fact disappointed, devastated over the death of their leader, Jesus Christ. They were frustrated that they almost disbanded as a group, as the disciples of Jesus Christ, because their hope was shattered over the death of their leader, Jesus. And so everything collapses. There was no hope. We have found ourselves leaderless without somebody who would save us from the sovereignty of a foreigner, the Romans. And so like everybody, the disciples were not so excited anymore. And Mary went to the tomb. And when she was there, she found out that the tomb was open. The stone that was covering the mouth of that cave was gone. And so instead of going into the tomb, she ran and called the disciples of Jesus. Somebody must have stolen the body of Jesus Christ. And so the disciples that Jesus loved, John, who is much faster and stronger than Peter, has to beat him. But you see, John, with his respect for Peter, did not go in the tomb. He allowed Peter to go in. And they were surprised to see the tomb was empty. And you know what? The gospel ended with, and they started believing. Because right from the beginning, they would never believe that Jesus will be raised from the dead. Why they started believing? Because it's impossible for anyone who would steal a body to remove the wrappings. But you know what? The linen that was wrapped by the body of Jesus was placed nicely. If you are a thief, definitely you will not bring the body without the linen. But they were surprised why the linen that was wrapped on the head of Jesus was placed nicely. So definitely, he was not stolen. And though the disciples left believing that Jesus was truly risen from the dead. My Lord, your Lord, has risen from the dead. Do you believe this? I do believe this. And that is why, my dear brothers and sisters, because our Lord was risen from the dead, we also rise with him in glory. We will rise from the dead with our Lord Jesus Christ. That is a promise. This is what we hope for as Christians. And therefore, our efforts, our hardships, our difficulties, our crosses became meaningful because of this. You know what? When Jesus died from the cross, all hopes were shattered. But when he was raised from the dead, all our hopes also rises with him. And you can imagine, we cannot appreciate, I cannot appreciate it as a Filipino. But I always think and imagine that during this springtime, the weather is not good. We never have spring in the Philippines, of course. But sometimes the weather is not good. It's so cloudy in the morning. You will think it will rain. Sometimes it's dark. And later, the sun rises. Our life is similar to that. There are moments in which we experience darkness in our life, sadness, maybe over a loss of a loved one, maybe because one lost a job, maybe somebody in the family is not doing well. These are dark moments in our life. We encounter that in our life. But despite of those things that happen in our life, there are also moments in which we rise from those. We rise above from these conditions. And we see hope, sun coming out. And this is the moment in which we experience Christ rising in our life. So my dear brothers and sisters, look at in your life that there are moments, situations or events in which we definitely experience rising. That we experience the Lord working in each one of us. If He does not, then our faith is useless. But all of us here, we have our own share of joyous moment. A moment in which we rise with Jesus because He gives us new meaning. And that all our crosses, big or small, has a meaning. Because all these crosses we have will not remain like that. In those crosses, we will see the light. We will see Christ in that situation, raising His hands, giving us the hope, giving us the promise that one day we will be together enjoying His love, His comfort, His compassion, His precious mercy. So my dear brothers and sisters, this is really the day the Lord has made. Make it beautiful. You seem to be very serious. Are you experiencing resurrection? Yeah. There should be smile in our life. There should be glowing in our eyes. Because if there is no glow in our eyes, who would believe us that we are saved? It is only by the glow of our face that we are truly saved. And it should touch everyone to believe that indeed he, she, we are truly saved by this Jesus Christ who raised from the dead. My dear brothers and sisters, happy Easter to everyone.